Welcome to Project Mercury. The reason I dubbed this mission Project Mercury is because the capsule that I designed kind of reminded me of the Mercury capsule, which shall be put on screen right now. Look at that. Yeah, they look pretty similar. Well, they really don't, but as you can see on top of the capsule, I've got a long kind of thing, which is why it reminded me of the Mercury capsules. So, as you can see, it's just a science mission. And it's meant to go high up into a high ballistic orbit, but it's not going to be an orbital. It's more of a. It's not a ballistic orbit. It's a ballistic arc, in where it shall come back down to the planet. But as you can see, it's going pretty up high. I'm pretty sure we haven't got a mission that's gone this high up yet. But it's looking pretty good, and that's where the resemblance I really think comes in with the Mercury capsule. Apart from the fact that this is completely unmanned, and the Mercury capsule didn't have solar panels, sticking out the front and stuff. And also, I believe the Mercury capsule didn't have RCS. But as you can see, we're kind of in orbit right now. We're returning, and the solar panels exploded off because the solar panels that I use cannot be retracted, so they're very good air brakes. Creates more drag, meaning that the craft can take a longer time to set down on the planet, which is very nice. And as you can see, I decided to look at the research tree for a bit. Hopefully this doesn't last too long. No, it's just a couple of seconds. And I've decided that I'm going to work on getting more research points, but we need to complete some contracts. So I bring you mission 2, which I call Drone and I. It's because we were doing Mercury earlier. It will be unfair to not mention Gemini or Gemini. I don't know. But it doesn't have a two-person capsule, and it launches in a fairly interesting way. But yeah, as you can see, this was my first attempt to orbit a probe around the planet, and it actually went fairly well. But as you can see, apoapsis is rising to about 87 kilometers above the planet's surface, sea level. So now RCS thrusters are firing, and we're waiting until we can get into a nice. You see, this was before we had unlocked the maneuver node, which is extremely important in the game. Before you upgrade your VAB and your spaceplane hangar and your launch pad, actually after the launch pad, you wanna do it after the launch pad. What you want to do is you want to upgrade your tracking station and mission control to unlock the maneuver nodes. So the first 3 things that you want to upgrade would be the vehicle assembly building. Wait, no. They would be the tracking station, launch pad, and mission control. Those are probably the 3 most important things to do early on. Now, this is actually quite an interesting part of the mission, in my opinion, because if you have a look here, we actually had to pass through the atmosphere to get into the orbit, which was corrected at a later stage. As you can see, we're burning up, but because we're aerodynamically doing it with little drag, we're mainly just lowering our apoapsis to be fairly low. So then I decided to perform a burn at the apoapsis to bring the periapsis up a bit so that the craft wouldn't burn up. So at the stage where I started transmitting science data and stuff, did a bit of work. Yeah, it's pretty good. I used up most of the science quite fast, but as you can see, I used the Pomeranian engine, and I also did some magnetic readings. And in fact, they've talked a lot about the Van Kerman belts in this. But the Van Allen belts are actually quite interesting around Earth, because the first time they tested to look for them, the test came back inconclusive. They put a Geiger counter on a rocket or weather balloon, um, and they put it up, and they would be getting really high readings, and then they would read 0, and then high readings and 0. That was because the radiation was so intense that the meter couldn't read it, so it would randomly go up and down. Now, the Van Allen belts are really cool, and the United States, back in the 60s, decided to let off a nuclear explosive in the Van Allen belts. Now we have retrieved the craft, it landed, and now on to the next mission. I didn't give it a fancy name, sadly. Okay, actually, let me think of a fancy name. How about deorbit? Because that's the whole point of this. This is a spacecraft that we will be able to deorbit from orbit. Because there was a contract and they were offering money, and I was like, hey, money, I like money. And then I decided that I would do this. Very nice. So also, by this point, from the last mission, I had enough money to unlock maneuver nodes. So I started to use them a bit. I was adjusting my apo and periapsis there. And now, as you can see, we're about to start the first burn. But I had some problems with the nav ball and rotation and stuff. So that took me a while. Okay, as you can see, the burn is firing. And you've all done orbit stuff before. I was kind of worried that I wouldn't even enter orbit because my apoapsis was so low, but nope, we entered a very nice, I don't think that was a very nice orbit, but we just had to cut through the atmosphere, and then we had to go to the apoaps, and we then had to increase the periaps, which I decided not to do with a maneuver node in the end. Because, wait, no, I did use a maneuver node. Okay, so then I time shifted to that maneuver node, and as you can see, we're just going to raise the periapsis. But yeah, onto the Gemini missions. In one of the missions, a corned beef sandwich was smuggled onto the Gemini capsule because Gus Grissom, yes, the same Gus Grissom who sadly died in the Apollo 1 fire, was doing a thing where he wasn't supposed to eat in outer space, but his crewmate smuggled on a corned beef sandwich, which was Gus Grissom's favorite. But as soon as he took a bite of the thing, crumbs went everywhere, and NASA was not too happy about that. Okay, as you can see, we're re-entering, and it's looking pretty darn cool. So we've got all that nice sparks. The reason that happens is the friction is creating so much heat that it's literally creating like sparks off the metal and stuff. In fact, sometimes even metal heat shields weren't used. In the Chinese, one of the Chinese space missions, they used wooden heat shields, which were kind of effective somehow. As you can see here, I accidentally built a submarine, and I was like, what? Why did it go under the water? So I decided that my next mission should be build a bloody submarine. So I think that I should end off this episode here. I hope you have had a nice day, have a good week, and see you next time.